Welcome, everyone. This is Recovery Dharma. My name is Julia. I'm one of the facilitators in the Spokane Sangha, and it's such a joy to be here today post Thanksgiving. I hope everyone had good food and is well rested. I'd like to share with you a sentiment of metta. Metta means loving kindness. And I like to set the intention for our practice with a sentiment of metta. These are little tiny paintings that I've done. Many of you have sent me your paintings, and I chop them up and write sentiments on the back. This one reads, "May you remember you are enough. May you remember you are enough." You know, that's a really beautiful sentiment. And I want to remind everybody that most of us can receive that sentiment of loving kindness in the mind. But I'm not speaking to your mind, I'm speaking to the heart. Because in the West, we have a propensity to separate the mind and the heart. And in Eastern traditions, the mind and the heart are one. And if you read some of the Buddhist practices, you'll come across a word heart mind. And that's because the mind can't function without the heart, and the heart doesn't function without the mind. But in the West, we have to work on creating some of that connective tissue. So that sentiment is meant to go to the heart. And so, what I'd like to invite for our practice today is a posture in the body so that the heart can receive this wisdom. So, what I'd like to encourage you to do is sit in a way where the body is as upright as possible with a degree of comfort. So, I'm sitting on a cushion right now, my knees are crossed, and I'm noticing that my shoulders are a little bit rolled in. And so, I'm going to intentionally roll my shoulders up toward my ears and back. And I invite you to do that a couple of times too. Roll your shoulders up and back and notice what happens in this heart area of the body. See if you can feel those muscles stretching out a little bit and see if you can actually feel as your shoulders are rolling back and down. See if you can feel the heart lifting open. You don't want to arch your back. You want to keep your spine nice and straight, but see if you can just sit in a way where you're lifting some of that weight off your bottom and you're dispersing energetically throughout the core of your body, lifting that heart. If it's available to you and if it's comfortable, go ahead and close your eyes. You can even turn your camera off. Nobody's watching. Find a comfortable posture for your hands. My hands are in a very traditional mudra, hand pose. My left hand is down, palm facing up. My right hand is in my left hand, like this, and my thumbs are touching. And I'm resting that hand posture right at the base of my navel. This particular mudra is about harmonizing opposites, bringing the left together with the right, and so forth. And breathe. And smile for a moment. And smile on the sentiment, you are enough. And let's add to that a little bit. And let's add to the remarkable action of being here today. The effort to be here today. You may not think it's effort, and that's okay. And I'm here to remind you of all the ways that it is. You know, of all the things we could be doing today, post holiday. that each of us has prioritized this time to be with one another, to open the heart a little bit, to entertain the Dharma, the wisdom of the Buddha that has survived for thousands of years. And here it is alive in the United States of America, across the United States, alive in each one of us. If that isn't something to smile at, I don't know what is. How amazing. What a gift we have given ourselves, and by extension, we give to each other. Thank you for that. And this fits so perfectly with the theme that we've been exploring for the month of November in the Spokane Sangha. We've been talking about and exploring the 4 practices of generosity in Buddhism. And one of the things that I've done with these traditional practices is I've added a spiritual word that brings this ancient teaching into a more contemporary conversation. I've also added a limitless quality, one of the Brahma Viharas. There are 4 of them, these immeasurable qualities. And I've added one to each of these 4 practices. And today, I'd like to review all of that. And I'd also like to offer you a tool to work with, something I call an instrument of peace. To begin, the first practice of generosity in Buddhism is to give material things, to make sure the basics are covered: food, shelter, clothing. So we do that also by financial support and so forth. The spiritual word I'd like to impart today, however, is by giving an individual, including ourselves, the basics. We also we've set a foundation to give confidence, faith. Faith in the Buddhist tradition is the word confidence. And we're not talking about faith outside of ourselves. We're not talking about confidence outside of ourselves in systems and other people, doing the right thing, doing things for us, coming through. That's not what we're talking about here. What we're talking about is faith and confidence in one's self. The limitless quality that I've assigned to this particular practice is Maitri, loving kindness. The instrument of peace I'd like to bring forward is something called interconnection. And if you have the Satyaseva book, it is in chapter 9, the mindfulness practice of nurturance. Interconnection means that nothing exists by itself. Nothing in your life exists without hundreds, if not thousands, of other people involved. Every basic need you have has been touched by so many nameless, faceless people. And I like to practice and think about interconnection every time I go to the grocery store. And what I do for just a moment is I find a parking space and I take a moment to just think about the thousands of people that made it possible for me to drive my vehicle. That's a meditation of interconnection all by itself. And then I think about the parking lot and the landscape architect that designed it, and the contractors and the laborers who paved the parking lot and put in the cart holders and painted the lines in the parking spaces, and who put in the landscape and the signs. And I take a minute to think about all of those people, and are their basic needs met? And do they have love and kindness in their lives? And I give a moment to smile at them in gratitude. All of this before I even enter the maze that is my grocery store. And then I go into the grocery store. And it's a bit overwhelming because there are tens of thousands of people involved in that place. I can pick up one item and know that there are so many people involved in bringing that item to me to meet my basic need of food. It's extraordinary, interconnection is. And one of the most beautiful things that it does is it helps me get out of my own petty mind and petty way. And I begin to think about other people, how they don't want to suffer, how they want to be happy, just like me. And so I take a moment of thanks, and may you be happy. May you be peaceful. May you be safe. May you be blessed. And this gives me such a sense of pride and confidence in myself. Like, wow, I am cared for by so many I will never meet. Amazing. That's the first practice of generosity, to give confidence, loving kindness, and to practice interconnection. The second practice of generosity is to give protection. And in a very traditional way, this is exactly what it means: to offer safety, to guard. Spiritually speaking, however, it also means to give and to offer encouragement. The limitless quality associated with this practice is compassion, karuna. And the instrument of peace associated with this in the Sate Seva book comes from the chapter 6 called The Power of Pause. And this is a practice called Just Like Me. And so when you encounter somebody who is difficult, you can remember, oh, right, just like me, this person does not want to be challenged, does not want to have difficulties. They want to be safe. They want to be clear and not confused. They want to belong and be loved. Just like me. And what that practice does as a practice of awareness is it keeps my judgmental mind from rising up enough that it will dictate my actions. So when I encounter somebody who's difficult, say it's Black Friday, right? And there's going to be lots of people, lots of unpracticed people out and about today in a hurry, pushing and shoving and demanding maybe. And boy, is that going to activate my judgment. Like, what is wrong with them? It's a toaster, it's a TV. Who cares? Why does this matter? And just like me, people get upset, they get confused, they get filled with a sense of urgency that isn't rational, just like me. So rather than judge them for that, I can take a moment, slow down, breathe. May you feel safe. May you feel at ease. May you feel encouraged that it's going to be okay, whatever happens. That's how we give encouragement and protection. The third practice of generosity is to give happiness. And in a spiritual sense, what this means is to create the conditions for joy, for ease and peace, really. To create the conditions, to make an effort. The limitless quality associated with this is mudita, joy. What are you doing to create the conditions for peace and ease? That can create a little bit of happiness and joy and fun. What are you doing? Are you going into the day anticipating challenges and negativity? And are you armoring up, hardening? That is an option. And it's an invitation to gently and curiously ask, well, is that effort going to bring me happiness and joy? Or is it a little tight and a little anxious? Only you can determine that. For me, I'm actually going to navigate Black Friday a little bit today because I have one of my kids is visiting from college and she needs a few things. So we're going to brave the madness. So what am I doing to bring peace and joy? It's all about my garments today, friends. I have intentionally chosen clothing that's so fantastic, it's going to stop people in their tracks and smile and laugh because it's ridiculous and wonderful. I'm wearing a jacket that's made out of ties, men's ties. It's fabulous. People are going to be like, wow, that is weird, wonderful, wacky. And I'm going to be, I know, isn't it great? That is creating a condition for ease and peace and joy, all in simply what I've chosen to wear. And it'll be such a curious thing to happen if no one says anything about it. If I go into my day and no one mentions my outfit today, that'll be something for me to work with. And finally, friends, finally, the fourth practice is to give the Dharma, the teachings of the Buddha. And maybe you're someone who's new to the Buddhist practice, so you're not really sure what that means, and that's okay. Another way to look at this from a spiritual point of view is to give wisdom, your wisdom that's already alive in you. And the limitless quality associated with this practice is equanimity or inclusivity. And this is a practice about allowing the good and the bad to inform us, to inform our wisdom, to stop the habit energy of chasing only what feels good and rejecting everything we judge to be bad, and instead learn to sit with both. So, for example, I have every expectation that somebody's going to compliment my outfit today, good or bad. And I'm going to have to sit with if I'm met with silence. There it is, including it all to help me understand my own motivations and intentions. And the instrument of peace associated with an equanimity practice comes from the Satyaseva book, from the 8th chapter called The Present Moment. And forgive me, I forgot to mention the instrument of peace in our joy practice. And this is the practice from chapter 12 in Wise Speech called Listen, Listen. It's an acronym, and it stands for love, intention, space, tenderness, energy, and non-attachment. When we really listen deeply to ourselves and to one another in order to create conditions for peace and ease, we have to cultivate a practice of listening. And so getting back to offering the Dharma and wisdom with equanimity and inclusivity, the instrument of peace here is ug to u. And that comes from the present moment. And this is a practice where you find yourself experiencing something and you're like, ugh, this again, I can't believe it. Or you're judging, ugh, why did this person do that? That was such a crappy thing. Ugh. Okay, very human. So then the next breath might be, ooh, what is this here to teach me? What can I discover here? So we have to be real. If it's uggy, it's uggy. Let it be uggy. Ugh, yuck, gross, ugh. Feel it, identify it, let it be what it is. And we don't have to wallow in that. We don't have to linger because we can go to, ooh, what else is here for me to see? That's equanimity. Friends, dana, the practice of generosity, is fundamental to Buddhist principles. And how this connects to a journey of recovery is an invitation to be more generous to ourselves by way of being more loving and kind, by being more compassionate and joyful, by learning to be more inclusive, holding our despair and our success at the same time. We move away from habits of neglect and denial to new patterns and new ways of bringing peace, ease, safety, confidence, protection, happiness, wisdom. This is a lifelong practice. And it's such a joy to be able to share it with you. So let's take just a few minutes. I know this was a lot of information, so let's just take a couple of moments to breathe it all in, breathing in this present moment, breathing out an open heart, breathing in presence, breathing out heart. Breathing in breathing out. Let's end our practice today with a dedication of merit. I'd like to invite the chime to sing so that we can listen to that. Let's see if I can do that. There we go. There are two very holy people who really embraced the sacredness of life that have been profoundly influential in my life and in my practice. The first is Saint Francis of Assisi, whose story is very similar to the Buddha. And he had a very famous prayer that begins with, "Make me an instrument of peace." And for as long as I can remember, I have loved that idea that I, as a human being, can be an instrument of peace. My voice can sing songs of peace. My body can move in peaceful ways. My thoughts can produce notions and perspectives and new ways of seeing that are peaceful, safe, and easy. The second holy person who really embraced the sacredness of life is Thich Nhat Hanh. And he has a famous quote that is on the Soul Center website. It's something that has really been a fundamental mantra to my personal practice, which is, "Your life is the instrument with which you experiment with truth. And truth and peace, friends, are sisters." Your life can be an instrument of peace. You can be an instrument of peace. And wouldn't it be amazing if by your own example you can encourage and awaken and illuminate the songs of others so they too become instruments of peace? What a symphony we could create of loving kindness, compassion, joy, and freedom. May you go into your day with so much peace, so much ease. May you dare to sing your own instruments, you. And may you know that the impression you leave in this space is so inspiring. It is the thing that keeps us all going. Thank you so much for your practice today, friends. We'll see you next time. Namaste.